Hello, dear all. Good morning. Welcome to the economics class. So, girls, in the last class, we had started with the new chapter, chapter 3, that is liberalization, privatisation, globalisation. So, before we get into the next topic of today's plan, let us quickly recap what we had done in the previous class. All right. So, a quick recap. Firstly, we started with the introduction, that is during 1991, how the situation was, what was the need, what was the thought process done by the policy makers. And then we did the background, that is financial crisis. So during the time, during that particular year, because of the various phenomena, there were financial crisis all over, and it started during 1980 and it moved on from 1980 to further 20 years. So what were the financial institutions that came for India's help? It was IBRD and WTO. IBRD is International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. Girls, I want you people to remember the full form of IBRD. You might get a 1 mark question. Please expand IBRD, or they will ask you what is IBRD. So you will have to explain what is IBRD. It is a financial institution, and IBRD refers to International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. So this comes for financial rescue, which is also called as WTO, is nothing but World Trade Organization. All right. So nextly, we looked into NEP. NEP was a policy introduced during that particular financial crisis period. NEP denotes new economic policy, where World Bank and IMF came into picture, and they presented this kind of policy, and they had certain rules and regulations, conditions for providing finance. See, it was a situation where finance was a major criteria where India had to face. India was in crisis. India had lot of balance of payments issues. So what did India do? India took help from IBRD and WTO, or WTO and IMF also. So these financial institutions, which are from a different country, okay, so they came to help India, saying that we will help you, but on certain conditions. What were the conditions? So the conditions were liberalization. So they wanted certain sectors to be having, it should have relaxed. There were certain conditions, isn't it, on industrial policies, on agricultural field and companies. India had a lot of public sectors. So they wanted privatization also to happen. So how did this liberalization help the WTO as well as IMF and India also? So this NEP, that is new economic policy, during that phase gave a lot of improvement in the financial structure of our country. So liberalization became, another platform for all the sectors in our country, where import and export policy was introduced, where import was, it was a little subsided, exports were encouraged, and there were a lot of other companies encouraged from different countries. Then came into picture was the deregulation of industrial sector under liberalization. So what were the regulations that changed the industrial sector? How the industrial sector's policies, rules were liberalized, and how it impacted the economy. Next, how the financial sectors were influenced by liberalization. How were the foreign companies started to invest more in our country after IBRD and WTO come into the picture. All right, girls. So these were the things that we studied in the previous, lesson. I mean, previous class. So now we will move on to the next part in liberalization, that is taxes. So before we move on to that, girls, I want you all to understand what is taxes. See, most of you will know what do you mean by taxes, but few will not know. So, see, I am a person who believe in the base teaching. If your ground is strong, wherever you are standing, if that particular thing base is strong, you will remain firm in your education, in your anything, wherever you go. So you should remember the concepts that you study. You should understand, you should know what you're studying. Okay, you can't simply just study for it is there in the textbook, you have to study and you have to pass. No, that should not be your intention. So please understand the concept. Before you understand what is tax reforms, I want you to know what are taxes. So what is tax? It is a compulsory contribution to state revenue levied by government or workers, income and business profits, or added to the cost of some goods, services and transactions. So girls, tax is something that you pay on a daily, on a monthly or on a yearly basis. So, however you do the transaction, it could be you're buying a commodity or you're earning every month you earn for that particular income that you earn, you will be paying a certain amount, a percent of tax to the government. So, it is levied by government and it is based on the income that you earn, the profits that you earn, and the commodities that you buy, the services that you buy, any transaction that happens, there is a certain percent which you will have to contribute to the government. So that amount that you contribute is called as tax, and it is a compulsory duty of a citizen. All right, if you think the government has to do something for the economy, then you should never fail to pay the taxes. The one who fails to pay the taxes is equivalent to a criminal. So please make sure the taxes is being paid on time, because government revenue is generated through taxes also, and they make use of it for various economical growth purpose. All right, girls, saying this, let's move on to the next topic, the tax reforms. So before I start saying this, so you have understood the meaning, what do you mean by tax? Now what is reform? So girls, please understand, reform means it's a situation where the changes has taken place in order to improve. So reform is a continuous process of changes. For example, you go to a shop, okay? Maybe you go to Reliance Trends. So there you pick a top t-shirt or a kurta. So you wear and you see, does it look good on you? If no, what would you do? You would change, isn't it? You will go to another and you will try it. So you will keep trying the choices that is there until and unless you are satisfied, isn't it? The same way it is called as reform. How you reform yourself to see yourself in a right way is reform. Keep changing. The change is for the betterment, not for something bad. So how did this tax reform help our economy? Let us understand. Tax reforms are concerned with the reforms in the government's taxation and public expenditure policies, which are collectively known as its fiscal policy. So, girls, fiscal policy is nothing but the changes done by government, okay, for betterment, for other various expenditure policies, how the government is implementing. So that is called as fiscal policy. So you should also know what is fiscal policy. All right, girls. So now, when you are speaking about taxes, you should also know there are two types of taxes. One is direct tax and the other one is indirect tax. So you will be thinking direct tax is something which you collect directly. Yes, you are right. Direct taxes are those taxes that is being collected directly by the population or the people of the economy. How? It is like examples for direct taxes would be income tax. Okay, on a regular base, we are compelled to pay income tax, isn't it? If you escape paying income tax, what will happen? You will be put under the bars, behind the bars. So right now you can see who is that, DK. He's a politician, DK Shiv Kumar. He is into the tax, income tax ride. So what happened? What are the news people telling about him? He is not paid income tax, or is having illegal property with him. So it is always said that being one individual, or being a citizen of a particular country, you are supposed to have only this much of asset. In case you are having excess asset, you will be paying certain tax on it, and if you do not pay tax, only then you will have the trouble of this income tax people. So they come and they just take all your things. They will not even, they will just get to know everything is undercover. So it is always safer for you to pay tax and be a right and good citizen. So just look at him. He's a politician. He's into such a responsible job of the society. But what is he doing? So do you think that is worth? So one should not, escape from paying taxes. So that is one of the example. Paying income tax is one of the direct taxes. Then property tax. We all live in houses. If we live in a house which belongs to ourselves, like it's our own house, not the rented one, we will be paying annual property tax. Okay, and that also should be paid on compulsion. It has to be a duty of a citizen that you will have to pay. Then gift tax. In case you're gifting your property to your, probably, see, my somebody, a grandfather is gifting his property to his son. So what is that? That gift tax, that process also has a certain amount of tax. All right, girls. So you need to understand that is about the direct tax. And then let us move on to the indirect tax. Indirect taxes are those taxes which are examples for indirect taxes, like sales tax, entertainment tax. Sales tax. Do you pay the sales tax every day? No, only when you sell certain commodity to a different country, only that particular time you pay that particular percent of tax. Then excise duty. Where do you come across this excise duty? It usually happens customs duty, excise duty, and VAT. Okay, value added tax. So value added tax is now compelled to all the products and commodities that you buy. There is certain amount, 4% of VAT, which is included in your purchase. So that is about the examples of direct taxes and indirect taxes. Moving on to the next slide, we will understand what do you mean by direct taxes. So it consists of taxes on incomes of individuals as well as profits of business enterprises. All right. So as I said you, the income that you earn, you will be paying the amount of tax, that is income tax. Whatever the income you're earning, the profit you're earning, there is a certain percent of tax that has to be paid to the government. So that is direct tax. Since 1991, there has been a continuous reduction in the taxes on individual incomes, as it is felt that high rate of income tax were an important reason for tax evasion. So during I think colonial rule, taxes were very high. People were not able to afford for their actual living. Just imagine, paying tax was, they were shedding their bloods and bones. So that was impossible for our Indians during the colonial period to pay the taxes. So, what imposed for all the changes in taxes? After the colonial rule, after we had our independence, there were changes that was seen by our policymakers, our leaders. They looked into the localities or areas where it is still underdeveloped. People don't have proper job, no employment, no education. How are they earning income? And without income, how are they paying this much of taxes? It is not possible. Even today, there are farmers who suicide, who kill themselves because they're not able to pay the taxes, they're not able to meet their daily expenses. So, government felt the need for the tax rates to be reduced so that the people of our country could pay the tax without any escaping. See, one thing we all can notice and we all evident that every day only the genuine people pay the taxes who don't have external assets like black money. People with the black money, people with unwanted assets, they are escaping to pay the tax. How fair is it? Such an unethical thing in life. So please make sure all the taxes are being paid. So government just thought, let us reduce the percent of the tax rates so that let us encourage the economy to pay the taxes on time. Let them not escape from paying the tax. Let us, being a government, let us not burden our people. So this during 1991, they came to a conclusion that the tax rates has to be reduced. So this was something that happened during tax reforms. All right, girls. So moving on to the next slide, it is now widely accepted that moderate rates of income tax encourage savings and voluntary disclosure of income. So government felt by reducing the rates of taxes, they are encouraging them to save. All right. And also, they are honestly, voluntarily coming and disclosing their income. See, this is what I am earning. Okay, for this much of amount, I have to pay how much tax? Oh, that's all. Okay, I am ready to pay. So, this was the situation what government felt we could create. So this created a very nice, safe environment for the people of economy. The rate of corporation tax, which was very high earlier, has been gradually reduced. All right. So the corporation tax also, it came, it started to reduce gradually. Alright, moving on to the next slide, girls. So we will be talking about indirect taxes. Now let us understand what is indirect taxes. So it consists of taxes levied on commodities in order to facilitate the establishment of a common national market for goods and commodities. So here it's same, it's domestic market where you will be paying certain amount of taxes on the commodities and services that you purchase or sell. So this implies or includes indirect taxes. So in the year 2016, the Indian Parliament passed a law saying Goods and Services Tax Act 2016. So Indian Parliament passed a law called as Goods and Service Tax Act 2016. It was imposed or it was presented to the economy to simplify and introduce a unified indirect tax system in India. They wanted to have a no complication tax payment. They wanted every individual of the country to be paying their indirect taxes. So they wanted to make it unified, one for everyone. All right. And then what? This is expected to generate additional revenue for the government, reduce tax evasion, and create one nation, one tax, and one market. As I told you, girls, if every individual of the country makes the tax payment on a regular basis, what happens? The revenue is generated without any hindrance, without any stagnancy. Okay, so when there is an inflow of revenue, it reaches the government, and government can improve the economy's infrastructure and in various aspects. So this also reduces, okay, paying on time, paying the taxes, or reduction in the rates of indirect taxes or the direct taxes. It encourages evasion, the tax evasion, and it also creates one market, one nation, one tax. So it has to be uniform, is what the government is trying to tell in this particular point. Alright. So in order to encourage better compliance on the part of taxpayers, many procedures have been simplified and the rates also substantially lowered. Okay. So girls, this is about the tax reforms. What happened during tax reforms? So these were the changes which affected the direct tax and the indirect taxes, and how people were benefited with reduction in tax rates. Moving on to the next slide, we shall learn the next topic, which is called as foreign exchange reforms. Before getting into the concept of foreign exchange reforms, I want you all to understand what you mean by foreign exchange. Girls, foreign means what? It's a country which does not belong to us, where we are not the citizens, is a foreign nation. Okay? Foreign exchange. What are we exchanging with them? So it is a conversion of one currency into another at a specific rate known as the foreign exchange rate. Alright? For example, our country has a rupee, and take America, it has dollar. So which do you think is more powerful? Yes, American dollar is more powerful because it has the money value greater than our country's money value. 1 rupee, can you compare anyways to $1? Which is greater? 1 rupee is greater, or the $1 is greater? Obviously, it is $1 is greater. So $1 is somewhere around 70 to 80 rupees. So $1 for them, according to America, that for them it is just like $1. But for us, $1 is equal to how many rupees? That matters. Okay. So we will be exchanging our currency with different countries' currency with a particular rate. Any currency when you make exchange. Okay, when you exchange, you would have seen if any of your parents or your cousins, if they've traveled to abroad from India, they will need the particular country's currency. Okay, for example, I'll tell you my own example. Okay, I traveled to Dubai a few years back, so I had to exchange. I needed some Dubai currency. Dubai is dirhams, okay. So what did I do? I had to go to this foreign exchange bank. I had to pay them in rupees, okay. Literally, I had to pay them about, say for example, 1 dirham is equal to 17 rupees, I guess, 16 to 17 rupees. So during that particular time, I had to pay them. How many dirhams do you require? First thing that matters, and you will have to pay according to that many dirhams. You will have to pay Indian currency, and you will be getting the other foreign currency in your hands. And for that particular exchange, there is 1% of rate, the tax that you will be paying them. Alright, that is called as foreign exchange rate. Now moving on to the next point. I hope I am very clear with the first point, girls. Did you all understand what is foreign exchange? Okay. So the foreign exchange market is a global online network where traders and investors buy and sell currencies. As I told you, you need not go to a different country to get the currency. There is a bank over here, or there is an online transaction where you can just get into with your user ID. With There are so many things, right? Formalities to be done. Once you're done with that, it's just an online transaction where you will be trading your currency with the other currency, and you will be paying a certain amount of rate for the exchange, which is called as foreign exchange rate. Alright, you can buy and sell the currencies. So this usually happens in stock exchanges. Okay, who people who are involved in this stock exchanges, stock markets. You also, there are people who gamble, right, with the foreign currency. Okay, that foreign currencies is going high. Let me buy that and let me sell when the prices are high. Well, let me buy when the prices are low. So it's like a gamble. Okay, it is a legal thing. Okay, as you're paying a certain percent of tax for it, for the exchange. Next is foreign exchange markets. Now you have understood what is foreign exchange. Now we shall see what is foreign exchange market. So foreign exchange markets are one of the most important financial markets in the world, because it is a live blood for all the business to happen. So any business, for example, India is operating its business with Singapore, say Sri Lanka, or any neighboring countries. So there are some business which we do not go to that particular country and do it, neither they come to our country, we do it online. So when we are transacting online, we transact our currencies also through online. One particular commodity for our business, if we want to buy something, say it, let it be a service or let it be a commodity, so we will be buying from another country, means we are paying them also in that particular country's currency rates itself. We will not be paying them in Indian rupees. We will be paying them in their country's currency. I hope you understood this, girls. All right. So let's move on to the next topic. The actual topic, foreign exchange reforms. Now you will understand. After understanding what is foreign exchange, now you will understand what is foreign exchange reforms. Now, what were the changes made in foreign exchange to see a betterment for the economy is what we are going to learn in this particular concept. Okay? So, the first important reform in the external sector was made in the foreign exchange market. So here the external sector is nothing but the borders from India to any other country is called as an external sector. Any trade, anything that you negotiate between two countries is an external sector. Alright, understood? So for that you need foreign exchange. And for that exchange to happen, to take place, you need a foreign exchange market. You can't go to a vegetable market and get a foreign exchange done there. So you will need a foreign exchange market for exchanging two different countries' currencies. Understood, girls? Are you all clear with this? Yes. And also, girls, let me tell you quickly one thing. Foreign exchange is also called as forex. 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 Can you see how is it got forex is? It is got forex by FOR, first three letters, and E exchange. That is how it is called as forex. Got it? Now, let us understand the next point. In 1991, as an immediate measures, so during this particular year, the reforms all started to take place, right? So what happened this particular year? As an immediate measure to resolve the balance of payments crisis, which we saw during 1980s, there were lot of imports and India could not pay the foreign currency because they had crisis or they had no money in the foreign exchange left to spend. So when India had this kind of situation, what was the situation of balance of payment? It was not in balance because we had lot of outflow of cash rather than inflow. Always you should have inflow of cash and outflow should be in balance. Only then the balance of payment will be stable. So, to overcome the crisis of balance of payment, there was one immediate reform that took place. The rupee was devalued against all the foreign currencies. So, Indian rupee did not have any value at all because India's rupee value had lost, it was devalued. Other currencies are going high because we are buying lot of commodities, services from a different country, and we are just paying them. Are we paying them in rupees? No, we are paying them in what? In their currencies, in their money value. How much is $1? $1 is equal to 80 or 75 to 80 rupees. What about the euros? We are paying them in euros. When we are buying so many things from outside, we'll have to be spending and paying them. When we are paying, not in Indian currency but in the other countries' currencies, our value of money is going down. I hope you are understanding this concept. If you don't understand, you please get back to me. I will explain it to you. Understood? Okay. So, this was a situation what India faced. By paying extra money, I mean, not extra money, by paying the money which is higher than the rupee, our money value became less. So, what happened next? This led to an increase in the inflow of foreign exchange. So it also set the tone to free the determination of rupee value in the foreign exchange market for government control. So inflow of foreign exchange started to improve. So then India was a little stabilized. Okay, moving on to the next point. Next slide, it talks about trade and investment policy reforms. So, by doing a reform in the foreign exchange, the government did a lot of, what to say, they kind of, built the foreign exchange, built the bond between different countries, companies, so that they could operate between the countries. Now, that was about foreign reforms, foreign exchange reforms. Now, let us see the trade and investment policy reforms. So, to do trade, what is trade? Trade is exchange of goods and services within the country or in the borders of the country. Okay. So, now how did this reform impact? Liberalization of trade and investment regime was initiated to increase international competitiveness of industrial production and also foreign investments and technology into the economy. So they wanted to bring in reforms in this particular sector to bring in lot of companies investing in our country. So they wanted to bring in competitiveness in the industries. They wanted to improve the production of our country and also the technology. When you learn from different countries, what are the technologies they use, how it is flourishing. So it encourages our country, like our developing countries, to also inculcate or adapt our technologies to a different country which is better than us. We should always learn something better or we should always adapt something better in our life. And when it comes to the economy, it should always be in a pace of upgrading. It should not just stick on to the old ancient methodology. So this was the major goal of modernization. So now liberalization is also helping. I hope you all remember the goals or the plans of our policy makers. What were the plans we studied in second chapter? It was about modernization. What was the main goal of modernization? It was to bring in, latest technologies, latest agricultural tools to implement in the sectors and to encourage the production and progress of the country, isn't it? The same way, now this liberalization of trade and investment also led to the path of encouragement, led to the path of growth of the economy. So this gave way for the foreign companies to come down to India and to make investment in certain sectors, which gave a boom to the industrial sector. So the aim was also to promote the efficiency of local industries and adoption of modern technologies. As I spoke to you previously about modernization, the same thing. The industries, the domestic production was encouraged and the modern technologies, implementing of new technologies were encouraged. So that was the basic and important major goal of liberalizing trade and investment policies. In order to protect domestic industries, India was following a regime of quantitative restrictions on imports. What is quantitative restrictions? It is specific limits on the quantity or value of goods that can be imported during a specific time. So, by doing so, what the government could do was it could, first thing, it could bargain for more number of tax, because they're importing lot of goods, foreign goods are coming into our country, then there is more number of tariffs were there. When they do quantitative restriction, only a particular amount of quantity or number of goods can come into our country at this particular period. So this restriction imposed the government or the traders to follow and to cut down the imports, and the balance of payments started to improve. So this led to the encouragement of domestic production, as we have always focused on the domestic production, and the domestic industries were encouraged during this particular phase. So that was a main reason for the government to take up this quantitative restrictions, so that they can cut down the import number of imports quantity. So this was encouraged through tight control over imports and by keeping the tariffs very high. So when you import certain commodities, you will have to pay certain amount of tax, and that is nothing but called as tariff. So if the increase the amount of tariffs, then you will automatically reduce your imports. Okay? And then these policies reduced efficiency and competitiveness, with which led to slow growth of manufacturing sector. So these policies it reduced the efficiency and competitiveness. So when there is no imports, there's nothing that's coming in from a different country. So the efficiency started to decline. The manufacturing sector of a different country started to decline. There was a slow growth. Moving on to the next slide. What is this? 1 second. The trade policy reforms aimed at, what were the actual aim? Dismantling of quantitative restrictions on imports and exports, reduction of tariff rates, and removal of licensing procedures for imports. So those were the actual point what we studied previously, that was actually going on. Now what did this trade policy reform come out and do it for the economy? What did they bring changes in economy? They wanted to reduce the quantitative restrictions on imports and exports. Next is they wanted to reduce the tariff rates, and they wanted to remove the licensing procedures, so that there were more number of foreign companies coming in, and it could again give a way for boost in employment opportunities. All right. So moving on to the next point, it says import licensing. So import licensing is also was a compulsion during that particular time, and the liberalization led to abolition of import licensing. So except in the case of hazardous and environmentally sensitive industries. So only for those industries which are really causing danger to the manpower or to the population, only that particular sector were compelled to have the license. Apart from that, others were liberalized. They didn't have that much of compulsion. They, of course, they had to go through legal formalities, but the legal formalities was not severe as before. Saying this, I will quickly explain to you the quantitative restrictions. So, what happened to the quantitative restrictions after the reform? So, on imports of manufactured consumer goods and agricultural products were also fully removed from 2001 of April. So the restrictions of quantity was removed. There were no limits for importing the commodities of your agricultural or manufacturing goods. All right. Next is the export duties. Of course, you will have to pay certain duties, certain rates for exporting your commodities. So, this has been removed to increase the competitive position of Indian goods in the international markets. So, this by doing so, the government it started to encourage the Indian industries. It started to encourage the Indian products in to reach the international markets. All right. So next we will move on to privatization. What is privatization? It implies shedding of the ownership or management of government owned enterprise. So any organization that is owned by government, just the government is releasing that from selling all its shares to the private, selling it to the public, and the ownership is gone to the private hands. Government companies are converted into private companies in two ways. First, by withdrawal of government from ownership and management of public sector companies, and or the second could be by outright sale of public sector companies. So one thing is that the government will withdraw its ownership. Okay, I am coming out of being this owner. You please manage. So giving the ownership and the management to a private hands is one way where the government company converting itself into private company. Second thing is outright sale of public sector companies, selling it off. Please take. I'm just, I don't want this company anymore. This is no more a public sector company. This is completely a private company. So that is how a public sector or the government companies turns to be a private company. All right, girls. Moving on to the next slide. Privatization of public sector and enterprises by selling off part of the equity of public sector enterprises. PSE is nothing but public sector enterprises to the public is known as disinvestment. See, any public sector government, when it is becoming private, it sells off its equity or its shares to its public. So when they're selling it, that particular process is called as disinvestment. When you invest in a particular equity or share, what happens? It is called as an investment. When you buy something, it is called as investment. When you sell the same thing back to the public, it is called as disinvestment. Please understand this. Simple terms in English should be understood. Economics is the only understanding that what you understand the word and relate to the economy. All right. Next point is the purpose of sale, according to the government, was mainly to improve financial discipline and facilitate modernization. So the main intention was to improve the revenue. Okay. It was also envisaged that private capital and managerial capabilities could be effectively utilized to improve the performance of public sector undertakings. Alright, girls? The government envisaged that privatization could provide strong impetus to the inflow of foreign direct investment. Now, when you give a way for privatization, there are foreign companies that is going to come in, and the foreign banks that are going to invest. So, when there are going to be investment done by a foreign nation, obviously there is going to be a growth in the economy. There are a lot of opportunities for our own country people. Okay. The government has also made attempts to improve the efficiency of public sector undertakings by giving them autonomy in taking managerial decisions. So, the government has given them, the private companies, you can take the authority of deciding, making decisions, making changes in the company. With this, we shall move on to globalization, girls. What is globalization? Globe is nothing but the entire world coming into one point. Globalization is the process of interaction and integration among people, companies, and governments worldwide. So it is one roof. The whole world becomes one roof under globalization. Globalization has accelerated since the 18th century due to advances in transportation and communication technology. So, as we started to improve in communication, technology, modernization, all this started to develop in all the developing countries, this led to globalization. When we have gone till the gate, don't you think we'll open the gate and we'll walk out? Yes, that is what is happened to countries like India, like developing all the developing countries. Once they reach to a level of understanding how communication works, how technologies work, they started to reach out to different countries and try to grow. This growth led to globalization. We all started to connect each other under one roof. So, how does this globalization perform? So, how did it happen? So, it is globalization is an outcome of the set of various policies that are aimed at transforming the world towards greater interdependence and integration. So, this is again, it happens because of improvement, that you want to grow is the main intention. The business trading is another reason why globalization took place. Globalization attempts to establish links in such a way that the happenings in India can be influenced by events happening miles away. So anything is happening in India, why? Because some other country is also following the same thing. There are some things, some situations where India tries to imitate other countries, isn't it? For example, people who work for companies which function or which operate business of a different country, they do not get Indian holidays. They get the other country's holidays. There is an Independence Day happening in a different country, they celebrate it here. There is what is that during in the month of October, there's one festival, no, what is that, I'm not getting it. Halloween, yeah. So Halloween, was it a tradition in India? No, but now people are following that. Why? Because there are so many companies based about different countries situated in our country. So the culture starts making us do that, isn't it? So that is how. Now it is turning the world into one whole or creating a borderless world. Okay. Now, under globalization, we have next thing to learn is about outsourcing. So, we understood one thing, one benefit about globalization is that we know which country is good at what. So, this becomes very easy for the companies to get the source. Now, when the companies needs the sources, they look into either buying the source or hiring the source or just leasing the source. Here, this outsourcing is something I can give you a quick, simple example of India. There was a time during 1990 to 2000 where call centers and BPO were all in boom. What led for these companies to flourish in our country? The population of our country, the unemployment rate of our country led for the growth of BPOs and call centers in our country. These BPO or call centers are a platform where our people sit and work for a different country at their time zones. Do you think all call centers were having work from morning 9 to evening 6? No. Most of the call centers worked only during night, isn't it? So that was the situation, and even the BPO also. So they all outsourced our people. They set up a company in India, but the actual operation was done in a different country. So that is called as outsourcing. So people in India sat here in our own country and worked for a different country. Such act is called as outsourcing. This is one of the important outcomes of globalization process. In outsourcing, a company hires regular service from external sources, mostly from other countries, which was previously provided internally or from within the country. For example, like legal service, legal advice, computer service, advertisement, security, each provided by respective departments of the company. So which they are good at, the other countries will know. So on that basis, they will pick the country and they will start outsourcing people from that particular country. All right. Now we'll look into the WTO is nothing but the World Trade Organization. The World Trade Organization was founded in the year 1995, was a successor organization to the General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs, which is shortly called as GATT. So GATT was established in year 1948 with 23 countries as the global trade organization to administer all multilateral trade agreements. All right. So all these countries got in together and they started GATT to improve the globalization. Now we'll be wondering what is multilateral trade. So it is an agreement which is done between countries. It's a treaty passed among three or more countries or nations. The agreement is taken place so that they could reduce tariffs and make it easier for business to import and export. Whichever country come into an agreement of exchanging the treaties, they decided that their tariff rates the business between these countries, tariff rates are being fixed under these agreements. So they will be quite liberal amongst those what to say agreed multilateral trade. I hope you understood. For example, three girls of you, you will come together and you will say that I will give you my accounts notes. You give me this, you give me that. So instead of you asking for someone else, you amongst three will know who is good at what. So you will exchange the ideas amongst yourself, knowing the benefits about yourself. All right. Moving on to the next slide. The WTO agreements cover trade in goods as well as services to facilitate international trade through removal of tariff as well as non-tariff barriers and providing greater market access to all member countries. as I told you earlier. Okay, one second. As an important member of WTO, India has been in the forefront of framing fair global rules, regulations and safeguards and advocating the interest of developing world. So India was in a pace of growth. So always India wanted to have a good cordial relationship with wherever it is doing its business or trade. So India kept up its words, and it performed well in the business that it did with any country it is. Okay. So girls, today we are going to complete this part of the topic. So we'll be stopping here. In the next class, we'll move on to the Indian economy during reforms. Okay. So kindly let me know if you have any doubts. I will explain it to you. For today, thank you so much, girls. And give in your attendance once you're done with the class. Okay. Have a nice day.